On Friday, the anniversary of Russian President Vladimir Putin's unprovoked attack in Ukraine, the U.S. announced fresh aid to Ukraine and sanctions against Russian corporations. The announcement was made after President Joseph Biden's visit to Poland and an unexpected stop in Ukraine, where he strolled through Kyiv with President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. For about 90 minutes on Friday, Mr. Biden spoke electronically with Zelenskyy, G7 members, and other supporters of Ukraine. What happened next? Stay tuned to find out more. The United States has announced new sanctions against Russian financial institutions, with the announcement of a new $2 billion military aid package for Ukraine. The metals and mining industry, and other foreign companies with apparent ties to Moscow's efforts to circumvent early restrictions. Sanctions will be imposed by U.S. against more than 200 individuals and entities in critical revenue-generating industries on Friday in conjunction with G7 allies and partners. According to the White House, it covers Russian and international actors from third countries that support Moscow in avoiding sanctions. 12 Russian financial organizations and people who support Russia's defense and technology industries are the targets of the sanctions. Part of the G7 leaders' statement added, "We repeat that Russia's reckless nuclear bluster is intolerable, and any attempt to use chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear weapons by Russia would be confronted with grave consequences. We profoundly deplore Russia's postponement of the New START Treaty's implementation." The two distinct U.S. actions on Friday, which fell on the same day as the anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, emphasized the U.S. approach to supporting Kyiv in the conflict. According to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, the United States stands solidly with Ukraine as it defends it, and will do so continuously until Ukraine is recognized, and the Ukrainian people can construct their chosen democratic future in peace and freedom. According to the Pentagon, the new aid package includes cash for training, maintenance, and sustainment, artillery ammunition, drones, and rounds for high-mobility artillery rocket systems, HIMARS. The Pentagon unveiled another security support package for Ukraine, including many new autonomous aerial vehicles, counter-unmanned aerial devices to bolster Ukraine's defenses, and electronic warfare detection gear. The Defense Department highlighted that rather than transferring equipment from current U.S. military supplies, and the country is purchasing these systems, the equipment will have to be produced following the Ukraine Aid Initiative, and it will probably require months for the contracts to be signed, produced, and delivered the weaponry. The Pentagon has increased the manufacturing of vital supplies as the U.S. continues supplying Ukraine with military assistance in rockets, firearms, and ammunition. According to the White House, the military shipment additionally includes mine-clearing gear. The Commerce Department will also take immediate action to impose restrictions on shipments to Russia by naming roughly 90 Russian and foreign firms, including those from China, that have violated sanctions. The White House announced that Mr. Biden would also approve decrees raising taxes on a few Russian imports. The actions coincide with growing American concern over Beijing's relations with Moscow and the potential for China to provide Russia with lethal assistance. Putin and Beijing's top diplomat visited on Wednesday in Moscow. Putin is anticipating a visit from Chinese President Xi Jinping. The president spent roughly 6 hours in Kyiv Monday on a surprise excursion via train that only a few knew about ahead of time. He made a speech in Poland to support Ukraine's cause and mobilize friends. The world was preparing for Kyiv's impending collapse a year ago. I've recently returned from a trip to Kyiv and the city is still going strong. Kyiv is adamant. It is imposing. And most significantly, it is unafraid to cheers from 30,000 spectators waving Polish, American, and Ukrainian flags before the Royal Palace in Warsaw, Mr. Biden declared on Tuesday. You are enjoying this video. You want to take advantage of other amazing videos, so hit the subscription button. It's that easy. Thanks for doing that. Let's move on. The statement continued, "For as long as necessary, the United States will engage with its partners and allies to give Ukraine the ability to address its urgent combat demands and longer-term security assistance requirements." According to Russian government representatives, arming Ukraine prolongs and escalates the conflict. In the meantime, on Friday, the Treasury Department sanctioned several Russian entities and singled out more than 30 businesses and people globally for allegedly being connected to Russia's efforts to evade sanctions, such as those linked to illicit finance and the trafficking of arms. The actions prevented Americans from transacting business with the corporations and banned their properties in the United States. Several sanctions have been put in place by Washington and its allies on affluent individuals, banks, and IT firms in Russia that have ties to President Vladimir Putin. Russia, meanwhile, has made it clear that it won't be deterred by the economic sanctions, promising to cope with any challenge. As long as this battle rages on, the U.S. Treasury declared on Friday the United States will try to place sanctions on Russia. The sanctions have a significant impact, according to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, on Russia's defense and economy sectors. Yellen noted that Moscow is selling its oil at a quite considerable discount because of price caps, adding that by doing so, we're denying them of the funds they require to conduct war. On Friday, the Department of State announced its sanctions against hundreds of Russian officials and organizations, such as governors and ministers of state, and vowed to keep up the pressure on Moscow until it stopped its brutal war in Ukraine. Blinken stated that any ceasefire in Ukraine must not be interpreted as approving Russia's annexation of land via force. The UN Charter, as well as the values and standards that enable all countries to be more secure and safer, would be abandoned if the international community abandoned Ukraine, according to Blinken. On February 24, 2022, 1 year ago, Russia began its full-scale invasion of Ukraine following a standoff that lasted months and then saw Moscow build forces close to the Ukrainian border as Putin demanded a stop to the expansion of NATO into previous Soviet republics. While Western nations increased their financial and military backing for Kyiv, Moscow's war operation has been plagued with military defeats. 1 year after Russia tried to invade Ukraine, and as it is rumored to be planning a new military campaign matched to the anniversary, the White House unveiled major sanctions against Russia on Friday, in addition to other actions the U.S. and G7 nations are trying to take to hold the country liable as well as provide aid to Ukraine. This announcement continued the United States' hardline attitude against Russia. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has pushed the United States to increase its assistance further, visiting Washington, D.C., and pleading with Congress to give additional military assistance. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you can always watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.